Okay, so good afternoon everyone. So as what I tell you that I will prepare a video discussion regarding about the lesson Islam. So this afternoon we will have a short brief discussion regarding about the religion Islam. So as you can see the picture, this is a perfect example, perfect illustration regarding about a certain Muslim praying, no, as part of his religious obligation and his religious duties as Muslim, no, as a follower of this particular religion, Islam. So we'll skip that part. So we'll move on the learning outcomes, specific learning outcomes of this discussion. So at the end of this lesson, the learners, so you, will be able to describe the fundamental beliefs and key practices of Islam. That would be the first objective. The second objective, you're going to explain the essential elements of Islamic faith, including its teachings, traditions, and core values. And you're going to analyze the similarities and differences between Islam and other religions and to promote respect and interfaith understanding. So these are the expected learning outcomes that you will be able to learn upon the discussion regarding about Islam. Okay. How many times in a day you think about your faith? So I have here a question, an opening question. So kindly try to answer this one in your own. How many times in a day you think about your faith? So if you are believer of a certain religion, did you try to ask yourself how many times in a day that you eventually thinking about your own personal faith upon the religion that you worship or upon the religion that you follow? And we need to remember always, class, that it doesn't matter no whether you consider your faith to be Unitarian Universalism or a different religion or a different religious belief, or you have the combination of many beliefs. The important thing is that how you often your personal faith consciously enters your own thoughts throughout the day. So if you already practice this one, then if you practice this one in your own self, no, you have your personal faith that enters consciously in your respective mind, then that is a perfect example that you are thinking about your faith. No, you're thinking about your faith. So in this afternoon, we will try to explore and know more about Islam. So the followers of this particular religion are called Muslims. So the name of the followers of this religion, they are called religious Muslims or Muslims. And the followers of this religion pray five times a day. No, they pray 5 times a day and marking key moments throughout their day to connect with their faith. So that is part of their religious duties and religious obligation as a Muslim, that they are required to pray 5 times a day as part of the religious duties and religious obligation in their as a Muslim. So what do you call the followers of Islam? They are called Muslims. So they are considered to be religious Muslims. They pray five times a day, marking key moments throughout their day to connect with their faith. Okay, so take note with that. So according to African American Muslim, no, according to African American Muslim Ann Holmes reading, she said this particular quotation: "Living life where you're remembering God intentionally, consciously, just changes everything." So what does it mean for you? So if you try to understand the meaning behind this particular quotation of Ann Holmes reading, what could be the message that we can get out from this particular quotation? What does it tries to emphasize? No? So I know that in your respective mind, you have your individual thought, you have your individual answers, particularly with this question. So living life with the intentional and conscious remembrance of God. So it means that being aware of a mindful of God's presence in every moment. So we are aware personally and we are always mindful that there is always the existence and the presence of God in every moment of our life. It's about making a deliberate effort to connect with your faith throughout the day. So it's very important that we should give time. We should give time in a day to try to connect with God, no, to try to connect with God. Even though you are busy with your household chores or any activities that you do in a day, you must give time. No, you must give time to communicate and to connect with God that you believe or that you worship. Whether through a prayer, whether you through a reflection, or simply acknowledging that there's always divine guidance in your actions. So that's the meaning of the quotation of Anne Holmes reading upon the quotation that she said, living life where you're remembering God intentionally, consciously just changes everything. This kind of awareness can bring a deeper sense of purpose, peace, and perspective, influencing how you interact with the world, how you handle challenges, and how you experience joy. So it's very important that we are aware and we give time to connect with God that we believe, the God that we worship. No? If we have this kind of awareness, it can bring us a deeper sense of purpose, a deeper sense of inner peace, and a new perspective, influencing how you interact with the world, how you handle challenges in your daily life, whatever challenges that you encounter, and how you experience joy. It's a reminder that spirituality can be woven into in a fabric of daily life, transforming ordinary moments into an opportunities for growth and connection. So what's now a very meaningful quotation, and it give us lesson, no, that whatever is your religion, whatever is your belief, it's very important that you need to give time. No, you need to give time to your God that you embrace or you worship. So this kind of awareness can bring a deeper sense of purpose, peace, and perspective, influencing how you interact with the world, how you handle challenges, and how you experience joy. So that's part of an awareness that you can learn. So before we move on our discussion, we have here a map. So it is a map that shows the exact location of the geography of the Middle East. So if you try to observe, if you try to examine the map, so of course it's a trade route during 570 AD. So as you can see, different countries here in our map. We have Egypt, we have Saudi Arabia, we have Persia or Iran, and the yellow lines, it symbolize land route. That these are the important land routes that was used as part of the trading industry during ancient times. So these are the land routes, and the yellow line and the red line represents zero for transportation. And we'll try to find out more regarding about this map. Okay, allow me to share to you the personal life of Muhammad. And of course, for the Muslim, Muhammad was considered as the prophet or the messenger of God. And we'll try to know more about the story of Muhammad as the prophet believed by the Muslims in the religion Islam. So we'll have a storytelling. Arabia in the 6th century was dangerous and chaotic. So during that time, it was said that Arabia or Arabian Peninsula was very dangerous. So it's not safe and very chaotic. Disorder. There were shortage of food and other goods, which lead people to steal just to survive. And during that time, a few people were rich, but most were very poor. So we can conclude that the economic conditions are very harsh, and there are only few that can be considered to be rich. So mostly it belongs to poor families. And the way of belief that was practiced by the people of this region are polytheism. So when we talk about polytheism, it's the belief of many gods. The worship of many divine beings, and it did not offer much concrete guidance for how to live. Often, people just did whatever they wanted. So, in terms of morality, so we can conclude that at this time, at this period, people are just doing negative things, no? Just to survive. Because at that particular period, the condition was so harsh, especially for the members of the poor families. Into this wild setting in 570 CE or Common Era, in the city of Mecca, a baby boy was born. His father had died before he was born. So, who was this baby boy? It's Muhammad. Yes. It's Muhammad. It described the beginning of Muhammad. So, Muhammad, he was born in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And before, his father had died before he was born. So, sa ato pa, so wala pa siya na tao, ang iyang papa, matay na. Oh. And his mother named him Muhammad, which means highly praised. That's the meaning of the term Muhammad, which means highly praised. Sadly, Muhammad's mother died too when he was only 5 years old. An uncle adopted the little boy and gave him a kind of upbringing. Even when he was very little, Muhammad was sweet and generous. So, during his early days, Muhammad was very sweet and generous. Even though wala siya ng dako, wala ang yang mother, ang yang father kay both namatay, pero ang iyang uncle mo ini-adapt sa iyaha. Then ang iyang uncle mo padako sa iyaha. No? And it was said that it was described that Muhammad was a sweet and generous child. He seemed to have learned from his own sorrow to be compassionate towards other people's suffering. So maybe that's is one of the virtue that Muhammad developed in even with her obstacle and challenges that he encountered in his early life. No? The family was not rich, so when he grew up, Muhammad learned the caravan trade. So caravan trade is very popular during that time. No, dakukay na siya nga grupo na kasagaran ani magsakay silang camel, magsakay silang donkey, and they will be traveling from one place to another for trade, no? For and other economic opportunities. So they engage in trade in many trade routes in the whole Arabian Peninsula. So when he was 25 years old, Muhammad was hired to run the large caravan operation of a rich trader named Khadija. So the owner of the caravan operation that Muhammad was given an opportunity or a job. So the name of the owner of that caravan operation is Khadija. Khadija greatly respected the skill and honesty of her young employee. And Muhammad respected and trusted her also. Also, in the time, Khadija, no, when they met, so Khadija is already a widow. So, bao na, ano, nabaw si Khadija. So, when Muhammad and Khadija met, when he got an opportunity to work for the caravan owned by Khadija, at that time, Khadija is already a widowed woman. And because of that, Muhammad, they have this mutual understanding, and eventually, Muhammad proposed that they should marry with each other. Their age differed by 15 years old. So at that time, when they married, Khadija was 40 years old and Muhammad was only 25. But this age gap did not matter to them. Muhammad and Khadija married and were a very happy married couple. Muhammad managed Khadija's caravan business for the next 15 years and often to escape the bustle of Mecca, because at that time Mecca was so very maybe because of people getting inside outside in the city. So of course, if it's very noise, if there are lots of people crowded, you don't have time to relax yourself. You don't have the time to think about reflection, personal realization. So in order to escape the bustle of Mecca, Muhammad took a little time to have a short vacation. And what he's trying to do, he went to a cave a little distance from the city of Mecca. There, he stayed for a few days and he tried to meditate. So of course, at that time, if you want to free stress, no, if you wanted to, if you have many worries and trouble, the only way that you can try to relax yourself is by meditation. And Muhammad tried to escape the overcrowded the situation, the Mecca. One of On one of these visits, Muhammad fell asleep and was awakened by a voice through a cave. Opened his eyes and saw an angel who ordered him. So when the moment upon feeling asleep, he was awakened suddenly by a voice, no, echoing through the cave. When finally Muhammad opened his eyes, he saw an angel, and that angel ordered him, proclaim. Upon hearing this one, he did not understand the message of the angel. Yes, no? said it brought a message from Allah that Muhammad memorized and proclaimed to all the people. When Muhammad asked about what do you mean by the word proclaim, so the angel said to him, he must proclaim, no, he must proclaim the message from Allah, and he memorize and proclaim to all the people regarding about the message that was given by the angel Muhammad during the time. Muhammad objected. He could neither read or and did not feel competent to proclaim the word of God. So that's the answer of Muhammad. So he tried to explain that I cannot read, I cannot write, and I'm not confident. I don't have, I am not competent in the word of God. Then the angel insisted Muhammad was chosen and no other. Muhammad must proclaim the word of Allah. Muhammad went home and told Khadijah, his wife, of his spiritual experience inside the cave. Khadijah told Muhammad she believed in the angel's message and believed Muhammad was worthy enough to be God's chosen messenger. Khadijah urged Muhammad to accept the charge given him by the angel Gabriel and to begin proclaiming as Allah wish. Muhammad took Khadijah's advice and left the caravan business to start to preach the words of Allah. Muhammad proclaimed that there was only one God and that religion is Islam. And the word Islam, which means submission to God, was the only true religion. Muhammad called the followers Muslims, and Khadijah was the first to accept, no, was the first to accept this particular religion, and Khadijah was considered to be the first Muslim. Muhammad told people to pray Allah 5 times a day to show their devotion to God. He told them to be generous and help those less fortunate than themselves. He told them to be honest, to not steal or lie, and to be faithful to their own families. At first, hardly anybody listened to Muhammad. So, at first, no one tried to send the message. The message was given by Muhammad. After 3 years of work, 40 people had already converted to Islam. But Muhammad remained faithful to Allah. He continued proclaiming, and by the end of 10 years, some families had already started to convert themselves to Islam. The of men became worried at that time. So why do you think at this juncture, this point, the leaders or the authority and the city of Mecca became worried with Muhammad? Because of course, we try to go back prior to the start of preaching of Muhammad. Mecca, they have their own system of religious belief, no? Uh, their religion already. So at this point, the political leaders of Mecca wanted to eradicate or get rid or kill Muhammad because they believed that Muhammad could be their rival or enemy because Muhammad was preaching the belief of one God, which you must only believe Allah as your God. But the kind of religious belief or system was imposed in Saudi Arabia at that point or at that time. They have a way of belief. No, they embrace many gods, and they have so many idols that they worship inside in the Kaaba, in the city of Mecca. And that is why for them, the idea of Muhammad is a contradictory to the idea of their religion. Oh. So that is why when Muhammad already gained popularity, and when many people tried to follow him and decided to convert themselves to Islam, so the leaders of the city of Mecca, the political leaders of the city of Mecca wanted or killed Muhammad. No? So, so a major source of income for the city was the pilgrimage, visiting Mecca's hundred shrines to gods and goddesses. So it's a polytheistic way of worship. So if Muhammad convinced the people, majority of the people of the peninsula, that there's only one God, then the city the city would lose much more money, or the city lose the source of income. So that is why they try to eradicate Muhammad. The leaders also did not like Muhammad, telling them they should give up their wild ways. So they decided to get rid of after some of his followers had been Muhammad decided to leave to Mecca in 622. So following a small band of supporters, he sent ahead Muhammad. So from Mecca, so when his followers was suddenly attacked, so Muhammad together with his followers to move themselves in the town of Yatrib, over 200 miles to the north of Mecca. So this migration, or this transfer, or this migration became known as Hijrah. So the Hijrah to Yatrib marked the turning point of the event of the life of Muhammad. So many Meccans believe his revolutionary idea would neglect to the old traditional Arab. They feared that Mecca would lose its position as the pilgrimage center if people would accept the idea of Muhammad's monotheistic belief. That is why they try to get rid of Muhammad when Muhammad started to earn followers. He attracted many devoted followers. Later, Yatrib was renamed Medina. So, from Yatrib, the city of Yatrib was renamed Medina, Saudi Arabia. From this time, Islam spread quickly. Muhammad lived only 10 more years, but by the time he died, Islam had already spread to the point that Muhammad controlled the entire Arabian Peninsula. By the end of the century, his followers had already the lands of present-day Jordan, Iran, Iraq, Armenia, Turkey, Israel, and all of North Africa and Spain, and across the Pyrenees mountain range into France. Muhammad was a simple man who did not think he was worthy to be God's messenger. He nevertheless responded to God's call with energy and faithfulness, and proclaimed what would become the religion of nearly a fourth of the people on earth. Muhammad began life as a penniless orphan and died the uncontested ruler of all of Arabia, and a prophet of faith that would endure throughout the ages. So that's the story of the life of Muhammad. Okay, so we'll skip this part. So from the life of Muhammad, we can that it's all about the birth story of Islam. How does it started, and eventually how does it develop into its present form. Muslim considers Islam to be old as Adam and Eve, and recognize many prophets, including Jesus. However, for Muslims, Muhammad was the last and the final message, last prophet and the messenger of, as written in the Holy Quran, the Holy Scriptures, never to be changed or added to. So, do you see any parallels between the lives of Jesus and Muhammad? So, if so, what are they and how do you think there are similarities regarding about their life in terms of the respective teachings or the religion they follow? So, if you try to compare, compare and contrast regarding about the life of Jesus and the life of Muhammad, we all know that Jesus is considered the founder of Christianity. Muhammad is also the founder of Islam. Do you think there are any parallels? No, there are similarities regarding about their life. So if they have, then what could it be? Their similarities and their differences. Oh. Okay, so let's try to compare and contrast. When we talk about Muhammad, of course, Muhammad was a messenger, while Jesus is represented in Christianity as an instrument of God. Yes. No, it's discussed in the concept of Holy Trinity. That in the concept of Holy Trinity, the Christians believe that God is Jesus Christ is an embodiment of God. Then Muhammad had a wife who was criticized, and of course, Jesus never had any wife because he doesn't marry at all. Muhammad named Islam and aggressively spread it, creating an empire during his lifetime. While Jesus started his preaching ministry, he lived humbly and never created or named a religion during his life. What does he do is he just preach to all who wanted to listen but never accepted leadership position during his time. And another similarities and differences. Muhammad lived 22 years after beginning his ministry. While Jesus preached only 3 years before his execution. So we can compare and contrast regarding about the parallels and regarding about the differences between the life of Jesus and the life of Muhammad, of one of the most influential religion in the present world, Christianity and Islam. Okay, let's proceed on the five pillars of Islam.